When creating a training schedule, whether lifting weights, going for runs, learning something new at work, or in this case, training with your dog, consistency and regular practice are going to be keys to success in order to achieve what you ultimately want to achieve. Now, oftentimes I do find as dog owners, we have incredibly high expectations of our dogs. However, we are not putting the work in with our dogs in order for them to meet the expectations that we have. So, if you expect something from your dog, then I am going to look to you and expect that you will put in the amount of work that is necessary in order to achieve that. And if you're not going to, that's okay. Every dog owner has different expectations of their dogs, and every dog owner is going to put in various amounts of work with their dog. Just be sure that you are matching what you want from your dog, because this is a human-dog relationship. It is not all about your dog listening to you. You have to teach them through guidance, through training. And you're going to do that primarily through your formal training, which is going to be a collective 15 minutes a day. And trust me, it might not sound like much, but people have an incredibly hard time meeting this goal. But if you do, and you are consistent with that 15 minutes a day, you are going to find that your dog is doing things that you've never seen them do before. You are going to have more effective communication with them. You're going to see better response rates to you. And all in all, your bond with your dog, your trust in your dog is going to explode. So, 15 collective minutes a day. And this formal training is where you are working on the things that you want your dog to be good at. You're going into that 15 minutes with your treat pouch. You got your treats ready. You have your clicker. Are you using toys and play in your training? If so, you have a tug toy, or you have your ball ready to go. If you're working on recalls with a whistle, you have that. Whatever it is that you need for your training session in that moment, you are equipped and ready to go before you start working with your dog. You also know, going into your mini session, what you're going to be working on. Is it recall? Is it, place? Is it heel? Is it whatever? Is it multiple things? Whatever it is, have an idea of what you're going to be working on before your dog is in front of you. The formal training it's your opportunity to practice with your dog. You're going to find, you're going to make mistakes, right? As we get into this course, we're going to go over nonverbal and verbal communication, and this formal training time is really about you practicing with your dog, right? Make mistakes, it's okay, right? Mistakes are fine as long as you're learning from them. Have self-awareness to understand. Are you talking too much? Is your body language sloppy? Are you being consistent in what you're asking of your dog? Grace is having a good old time right now playing with this ball. And with that formal training, I also do recommend keeping a training log. You will find in weeks 1 through 4, you'll find a training template for each week. It is a guide to be used if you're not exactly sure how much you should be training, what you should be training. I gave you a template guide on what you can be doing each day through each week, and there's also a blank sheet within each week for you to print out and write down what you're working on, where you're working on it, how things are going, so that you can see what progressions are being made. Now, the informal training, that's your communication with your dog all throughout the day, outside of that collective 15 minutes a day. With your informal training, though, this is your time to practice implementing what you're working on in your formal training. I do see one of the biggest mistakes with the informal training is we work on very specific things in the formal training sessions, and then once we get out of those training sessions, we kind of fall back into our bad habits. So be very aware all throughout the day when you're communicating with your dog, you're trying to communicate with them as closely as possible to your formal training, right? It's the informal training is when you are actually putting into practice what you're practicing in the formal training sessions. So things like having your dog sit for food, right, before you release them for their breakfast or dinner. Random recalls throughout the day where it is kind of like a one-off. It's not training a behavior after behavior after behavior. If you work from home, you can get loads of informal training in each day, and I highly recommend it. The more you're able to do, the faster you're going to be able to achieve things. Now, going back to that formal training, I said we have a daily goal of 15 minutes a day. Those 15 minutes should be broken down into 5 to 20 mini sessions. Your session should last anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. For this course, I highly recommend that you keep your mini sessions within that 30-second to 3-minute time frame. You may find, as you really get into training and your dog is understanding what's going on and the games you're playing and having a lot of fun, that they are willing and motivated to work much longer than 3 minutes. And that's great. But for this course, we are trying to teach your dog maybe some new things completely or some old things but in a new way. So with that, we want to make sure that we're keeping those mini sessions short so that your dog isn't getting bored or frustrated if they're having trouble. It also helps make sure that we're getting a high rate of success, because if your dog does start to get bored, that's when we'll start to have failed trials. And we don't want that. Keep it short, keep it sweet, and keep it successful.